was a man who once said, and I can't quote it exactly, but show me how the society treats their dead, and I will show you the moralities of that society. I'm Tommy Routsong, nicknamed TR. I have Routsong Funeral Home, Sam Routsong, and Max Routsong, my two sons. So.
He's a third generation funeral director. We're fourth generation.
Okay.
So we've been in business for 100 plus years. What, 104 years. So it's very unlike businesses today to be family owned for that long. And my father is still alive also. He's 95. He'll be here soon. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's a great heritage to have. It's wonderful to be working with my sons. Dad's a perfectionist. He's an engineer by trade and got into the funeral business. But it was more interesting how my grandfather got into the business. We got into the business in 1913 when the flood came, and he was a postman. And he had a route that was way out of town. That was in Oakwood from downtown. And he stood on the second floor as he watched his horse get washed downstream and was killed. And the postmaster general at the time said, well, you don't have a horse, you don't have a job. So my uncle, who was in the funeral business, asked him, he was really busy, and he asked him to come over into the funeral business and help him out. And that's how the Routsongs got in the funeral business.
There's families that are at one of the lowest points of their life, and to be able to make a bad time better, I hate to say it, it's never going to be perfect, but we try our absolute hardest to make it go. And the amount of, we honestly don't make that much money for what we do, and the true reward is actually helping these families, because there's not a lot of people that are willing to do this kind of work. So to get out there and do it is pretty rewarding.
I think there's very few jobs in this world that actually have a hand in, making a difference in somebody's life. Doctors, teachers, and I think this is truly one of them.
You don't understand the impact of helping people through that end of life transition. They are indeed feel hopeless, helpless. You put their world back together, and you show them that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. That's what makes the world go round. I think service above self is the most honorable profession that you can have, and this gives us the opportunity to do that. You need somebody who cares and somebody who's happy with themselves. Those are my foundations for hiring somebody. These two not only fit that qualification, but their moral integrity, their happiness is all in place. They truly care about people. And I can say that about all the people that work here. We can be picky because we're a smaller funeral home, and we can decide on who we want to work with in the Routsong family. And we call our associates here Routsong family because you're with them all the time, more than your family. And so all the people that work here are not good people. They're fabulous people. Societies that are very caring for their dead, have a lot of ritual that are involved, are generally societies that have great moral conduct. They have high levels of success in their societies. They have higher levels of families staying together as a unit. So I think that's, as you see the family units break down, you also see the moralities and that kind of stuff break down. So the funeral industry, if you look at the 10,000 foot level here, has a great way to really judge what we're doing as a society and how we treat our dead.
Well, because we're a very personal business. We deal with families, and we're there to honor loved ones, and to gauge that through a business standpoint is something I can't think of another industry that could manage that.
Even if it doesn't appeal to you on the kind of highest emotional level to have services and to stop and take pause, it kind of becomes a logistical one. One of the first things I learned from him, one of his favorite lines is, you are going to have a visitation when somebody dies. It can either happen in a controlled environment, here at a funeral home, your place of worship, a good third place or whatever it might be, or you're going to have it when you run into your neighbor at the grocery store, or you see your friend when you're going to get gas, or you go out to dinner and you might see a coworker, and then you're going to have those conversations over and over and over again. Where does that put you on a path to healing if you can't even get all of that out with, I guess, get all of that over? Because you could be starting to get up that hierarchy of grief, right? But then the next time you have that conversation, it's going to take you right back down. It's better to have that all out at once, to have that in a controlled environment so you can start to get on with your life.
We do live behind a mask, behind a veil. People don't know what we do, and there, a lot of the reasons for that over the years has been the fact that we're caregivers, and we pick up the ball and we run it, and so we don't want the families to be bothered by the details and that kind of stuff. We put about 65 to 75 man hours into every single funeral that we do. The public sees maybe 5 to 6 hours of that 70 some man hours. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know, and that's really good perspective that you had in that. We do live behind a veil, and it's not that we're trying to be secret, not at all. It's just the fact that it's the nature of the personality of the funeral director that wants to be the caregiver, wants to take that burden off the family and to help them through that end of life transition, like I explained before. And so that's why there's a mystique. It's not because we're trying to hide something.
It's not about us. It's about the deceased. Some of the things we do, we leave out details because it's more respectful. Sometimes it's just one of those things where we have to put people first that aren't ourselves, and we do get nitpicky. We do start getting into fine details because we want this moment to be perfect, because it can never be replicated again. I think that's what really drives us to be perfectionist in what we do, and not everybody can say that.
You guys are in the film business, and so if you don't get something that's right, it's cut, and then we do it again, and we can splice that together. We have one shot. There are no retakes, and we got to make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed prior to us getting that done. One of my favorite things is, the only difference between a wedding and a funeral is people are standing up or they're lying down. It's basically the same thing.
So this is Boat. This is one of our care dogs. The other one's still a puppy, so he's too crazy for this right now, but he's a 3-year-old Australian Shepherd that I got from a small family out in Piqua, I think, yeah. And got him for my birthday. I always wanted a dog. They told me don't do it, and I showed up at the funeral home with the dog, and he's been coming to work every day since. So
He's a hard worker.
yeah, and he does like it, and he tries to pay attention. He's actually more like a toddler than a dog. And so he's also attention deprived at the moment.
Like my dad was saying, funerals are such a weird time, frankly, and to kind of break that tension with a dog or with food and beer and wine, like he says, but especially these guys, it just kind of makes you stop, and it makes everything a little bit more okay. And he puts more smiles on people's faces than Max or I ever could, so I think that's why he's a real asset to us here, actually. He's a member of the team through and through. It kind of all ties into this other part of what we do. We offer pet services also. And as my dad kind of alluded to earlier, we actually do more pet families, or work with more pet families than people families. And a lot of times we've found that they're even more emotional than human families from time to time. And if we can provide comfort for those families in any small way, then that's just an extension of what we do, whether they're pets or people.
At the end of the day, we manage grief. That's what we try to do. And any small way we can give back to the community, even through an act of one of our trustful steeds right here, we'll be able to help you.
At the end of the day, you can't teach people to care. It's something that's an innate part of each person, I think. And I think we're very lucky to have found a group of people that care. And do have an interest in making sure that people are going to be okay and getting through this end of life transition, as my dad likes to say. So often, I think funeral directors can be portrayed as people that are taking advantage of loved ones during a difficult time. And that is not my job. It's not my job to see to it that we have a good bottom line here. It's my job to help families. The quality of our care and the level of our people around here, the way they respond and react and become emotionally tied to our families, I think that stands out much more than somebody advertising a low price just to get families in the door.
And I would say to anybody that's interested in potentially getting into the field, don't do it for the money. It ain't there. And don't do it for the time off, because
You don't get a whole lot.
we work minimum 50 hours a week, but we would do it all over again in a heartbeat.